We'll begin with the approval of the agenda. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Sherwood and Councillor McIntosh, all in favor? And that is carried. Any disclosures of direct or indirect pecuniary interest? Seeing none, there is a recommendation that a closed meeting of council be held pursuant to Section 239, subsection 2 of the Municipal Act for the purpose of considering the following subject matters: the closed council meeting minutes from November 10th, as well as a verbal report from CAO Smith. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Andrews and Councillor Prendergast, all in favor? And that is carried. We're now in closed session. Good evening, everyone. We're going to welcome to the portion of our open meeting now, and we will begin, as we always do, with the singing of our national anthem. I'll ask that you rise if you're able, please.
O Canada, a home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
We would like to acknowledge the treaty lands and territory of the Williams Treaty Nations and of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. We also recognize that Dufferin County is the traditional territory of the Wendat and the Haudenosaunee and is home to many Indigenous people today. Tonight's meeting is being aired on public television and or streamed live and may be saved for later public broadcast or webcast. Your name is part of the public record and will be included in the minutes of this meeting. Any member of the public who's connecting via telephone is reminded to press *9 to raise their hand to indicate their intention to speak, and dial *6 to mute and unmute when called upon during the appropriate portions of the meeting. Ahead of our meeting tonight, we did have a closed session, and the recommendation coming out of closed is that the November 10th, 2025 closed council meeting minutes be approved, and that the verbal report from the CAO be received, and that staff proceed as directed. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Andrews and Deputy Mayor Taylor, all in favor? And that's carried unanimously. We do have some previous council meeting minutes as well, and the recommendation is that the minutes from December 1st, 9th, and 10th, 1st, 8th, 9th, and 10th special council meeting and the December 8th council meeting be approved. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Stevens and Councillor Sherwood, all in favor? And that is carried. We'll now move into the open forum portion of the meeting. Orangeville residents have the opportunity to present their views or pose their questions to council on any subject within council's jurisdiction for a maximum time of 3 minutes, provided they have not previously addressed that same topic before council within the next 3 months. If there's anyone connecting via telephone, you're reminded to press *9 to indicate your intention to speak, and once called upon, press *6 to mute and unmute. Clerk, was there anybody on the line? No, we're good there. Was there anybody in the gallery who wished to speak during open forum? Mr. Smith, come on up. Just a reminder that we need your name and address for the record as well.
Matthew Smith, 38 McCarthy Street. I have 2 questions tonight. One, I'd like to know if there's a opening date given for the makerspace at the Alder Library. And the other one is, I noticed the bike rack in front of the entrance here has been removed when the railing was installed. Just wondering if it's going to be replaced, hopefully in the spring.
Who would like those questions? Heather?
Through you, Mayor Post. Hello. The railing and the bike rack, I'll have to look into it. I'm sure it will be replaced, but I can get back to you. I have your email address. And as far as the opening of the makerspace, it is slated for the end of February, but we are revisiting that.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Savage. Was there anybody else in the gallery who wished to ask a question tonight or speak during open forum? Okay, seeing none, we will move straight into presentations, petitions, and delegations. I am excited to invite Mike Schreiner, the leader of the Green Party of Ontario, to speak about the legislation to protect Ontario's farmland through the creation of a food belt. MPP Schreiner, come on up. You'll note, Council, that in the agenda there is a recommendation there. That is a notice of motion that I put forward to the clerk. I've asked that it be brought forward to follow immediately after MPP's remarks. So at the time that we get to that, I will turn the chair over to Deputy Mayor Taylor, as it is my notice of motion. So, Councillor Sherwood?
Our policy about non-resident speaking, we've overruled that?
It was because it was a conversation that came up through council. So maybe the clerk can explain the.
Perfect.
Thank you. Yes, this was a request directly from the mayor for this delegate to come forward, so it alleviated that in the procedure bylaw.
Mike, the floor is yours. Thank you for coming in person today.
Join you today. Oh, there we got the, and it was nice to see many of you at the Rural Ontario Municipal Association meetings just last week before, and as many of you probably know, I grew up on a farm, and I've been involved in the food and farming sector my entire life, and it's near and dear to my heart. And now, at a time when our economy and our sovereignty and our food security is under threat, I think it's time for us to work across party lines and jurisdictional lines to defend our food security, our food sovereignty, and our agri-food economy. And the reason I think that is we have about 49,000 farms in Ontario that grow over 200 different types of crops that contribute $52 billion to Ontario's economy and employ over 875,000 people. 1 in 9 jobs in Ontario is related to the agri-food sector, by far the largest employer in the province of Ontario. And all of that is currently under threat because we're losing 319 acres of farmland each and every day. That's the equivalent of 1 in 9 family farms a week. And over the last 35 years, we've lost 18% of Ontario's agri-food land. And that's especially concerning because only 5% of Ontario's land mass is suitable for growing food. And less than 1%, 0.4% is prime farmland. And as a result of that, MPP Bobby Ann Brady, who's an independent from Haldimand, Norfolk, and I got together to introduce Bill 21, Protect Our Food Act. And the bill proposes to create a task force to put forward recommendations to protect farmland through the creation of a food belt. Matter of fact, the idea for a food belt actually came from farmers I met just south of here in Caledon because of the threats they've seen to their farmland over the years and are currently experiencing. The legislation essentially proposes that we have a farmer-led task force that would also include land use planners, farm organizations, economic experts to help develop the plan within a year and come back to the minister for a recommendation of how do we have a plan that will protect farmland. And it takes into consideration things like how do we reduce land speculation so new farmers can actually afford land? How do we improve soil health? How do we improve the business ecosystem that supports the food and farming and the agri-food sector? A number of municipalities, starting with Hamilton, have endorsed the bill. All 3 major farm organizations, the National Farmers Union, the Ontario Federation of Agriculture, the Christian Farmers have all endorsed the bill. And increasingly, I'm being asked to do things like I'm doing tonight, coming to councils and talking about the importance of protecting our food security, our food sovereignty, our agri-food economy, because without farmland, there are no farms, there are no food, and there's no future. And I would argue that food security is national security, and we need to maintain that food security now more than ever. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have regarding the bill.
Thank you so much. Was there any questions about the bill? Councillor Andrews?
Thank you, Your Worship. Mr. Schreiner, always a delight to see you, and again, it was great to see you at Roma as well. Quick question, you had mentioned some of the different agricultural organizations. Did you have any connection with the DFA, which is a different Federation of Agriculture? Was there any connection at all?
Yeah, so they've endorsed the bill through the Ontario Federation of Agriculture. So all the federations have, through the OFA, have done the endorsement through the OFA. But I have been meeting with a number of the federations at the local level as well.
Good. I know that they did speak here, it was a few months before Christmas, that I think they were highlighting this as well. But that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Prendergast?
Thank you, Mayor Post, through you. It's nice to see you again, Mr. Schreiner. Thank you for coming to Orangeville today. I was just thinking about how this applies to Orangeville, and us being on that urban-rural kind of cusp of Dufferin County, I was looking up some statistics. 50% of land in Dufferin is farmland. So we're very much part of that agribusiness here in Orangeville, so it definitely affects us. Supporting Bill 21 is really about ensuring communities like ours benefit for generations to come, because we all eat. And with existential threats, external threats, it's so important to be able to eat close to home. So I definitely am in support of your bill.
Thank you, Councillor Prendergast. Councillor Sherwood?
Yes, Your Worship, through you. Nice to see you, Mr. Schreiner, again. So you mentioned that you tabled Bill 21 at the legislation. Can you tell me what happened from there? Did it get all readings? Did it pass? What's the story?
That's a great question. So it's past first reading, and second reading debate was scheduled for this spring. Due to changes in the legislative calendar, it's going to be debated likely in the fall, sitting of the legislature at second reading. The reason MPP Brady and I introduced the bill last spring, knowing that we'd probably have a year, was to build support around the province for what I feel is a critical issue. And one of the great things about doing it this way is it's given us opportunities to have conversations like what we're having tonight across the province in both urban and rural communities about why it's so important to protect our farmland and our food security, and also highlight, and I represent a riding where the #1 employer is the automotive sector. So I'm going to defend the automotive sector. Trust me, I'm going to fight to defend our jobs in the automotive sector. But the number of jobs in agri-food actually are much bigger than any other sector of the economy. And I think that's why it's so critically important to have these kinds of conversations like we're having tonight.
Was there any additional questions from council for Mr. Schreiner? No? Deputy Mayor Taylor, can I turn the floor over to you so I can read my notice of motion? Deputy Mayor Taylor.
Absolutely. So at this time, Mayor Post, if you want to describe your motion to us.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. The recommendation as it's read is the notice of motion that was put forward from myself. Whereas Ontario's farmers play a vital role in sustaining food security, strengthening the economy, supporting rural communities, and stewarding the land that feeds Ontarians. And whereas we must recognize that both food security, the ability of individuals to access adequate nourishment, and food sovereignty, the capacity of a country to meet its own food needs, are critical components of national security. And whereas Bill 21 was introduced to the Ontario Legislature by MPP Bobby Ann Brady and MPP Mike Schreiner to protect Ontario farmland through the establishment of a food belt, and whereas Ontario is losing approximately 319 acres of farmland every day, and whereas the provincial planning statement is intended to safeguard farmland, recognizing it as vital for food security and the economy, and whereas Bill 21 would make farmlands within a designated food belt permanently protected from development, and whereas Bill 21 could improve land use planning, improve soil health, and encourage all farmland to be used in the production of food, and whereas the agri-food sector contributes to Ontario's gross domestic product over $50 billion, exceeding 900,000 jobs in Ontario, and whereas Bill 21 is supported by the Ontario Farmland Trust, the Ontario Federation of Agriculture, the Christian Farmers, and the National Farmers Union, demonstrating sector-wide support within the province's farming community. And whereas Ontario relies significantly on the U.S. for produce, including fruits and vegetables, due to its seasonal climate, resulting in an existing challenge that Ontarians face in trying to strengthen its food security. And whereas this legislation will help to prevent further land degradation by protecting farm and arable land for future Ontarians, now therefore be it resolved that the Town of Orangeville expresses its support of Bill 21 to establish a food belt protection plan, and that the Food Belt Protection Advisory Committee be comprised of farmers, farm groups, agricultural experts, land use planners, and other persons necessary to facilitate the implementation of the plan, and that the Town of Orangeville requests that this resolution be circulated to the municipalities within Dufferin County for their support, and that this resolution be circulated to MPP Bobby Ann Brady, MPP for Haldimand Norfolk, the Honourable Mike Schreiner, Leader of the Green Party of Ontario and MPP for Guelph, the Honourable Sylvia Jones, MPP for Dufferin-Caledon, the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, the Rural Ontario Municipal Association, the Ontario Farmland Trust, the Ontario Federation of Agriculture, the Christian Farmers, and the National Union of Farmers.
Very good. Thank you very much, Mayor Post, for that truncated version of your motion. Could I have a motion to get this on the floor? Councillor Pendergrast and Councillor Andrews. Any questions or comments, Council? No? Seeing none, can I have a all in favor? All in favor, and that motion passes, and I will turn the meeting back to yourself, Mayor Post.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor Taylor. Thank you for being here. At this time, we're going to call a very, very short recess so council can go out with MPP Schreiner for a quick photo, and then we will resume the meeting in just a minute.
Still be out there chatting.
All right, thank you, everyone. We will get right back to it. Next, I'm pleased to announce that we have Terry LaRue, CAO for Credit Valley Conservation, who is presenting the 2026 budget. I will turn it over to you. Good.
We're good? Okay, thank you. Good evening, Mayor and members of Council. I'm Terry LaRue, the CAO of Credit Valley Conservation, and I'm joined by Andrew Kett, our Director of Corporate Services. Today, we'll walk you through CVC's 2026 draft budget with a particular focus on what matters most to the town of Orangeville. Next slide, please. CVC is a community-based environmental organization dedicated to protecting and restoring and managing the natural resources of the Credit River watershed. Our jurisdiction spans nearly 95,000 hectares and is home to more than 1 million residents. This is a rapidly growing, highly urbanizing watershed, one that places increasing pressure on natural systems, water resources, and recreational lands. Next slide. Very recently, the province created the Ontario Provincial Conservation Agency, or OPCA. OPCA has directive-making authority over conservation authorities, and OPCA will be leading the implementation of a single digital permitting platform and streamlining and standardizing service delivery across the province. They are also overseeing the consolidation of Ontario's 36 conservation authorities into 7 regional bodies. For CVC, this means a merger with Conservation Halton, Hamilton Conservation Authority, and Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority to be known as the Western Lake Ontario Regional Conservation Authority. The CVC Board of Directors opposes this consolidation and is very concerned with the loss of local voice and local governance. What I would like to stress at this time is simply that there are no impacts to the 2026 budget that we're presenting to you. Throughout the year, CVC will continue delivering all programs and services, and our focus remains on very strong service delivery. Next slide, please. Across our watershed and all program areas, we're responding to 3 major trends: accelerating climate impacts, increasing natural hazard risks, and population growth and demand for green space. Next slide. The first trend is that our watershed models show a future that is wetter, wilder, and less predictable. This includes intense storms and flooding, heat waves, and resultant impacts to people and the environment. This affects every part of our mandate, from stormwater and flood forecasting to forest health, trail systems, and public safety. Next slide. In 2026, we will be implementing new climate smart tree planting guidelines, updating natural heritage and water resource mapping, and launching an online watershed hub to share real-time environmental insights. Next slide. In 2026, we will be monitoring 90% of our scheduled environmental stations, providing 100% access to up-to-date data sets for our municipal partners, and conducting inventories of 190 hectares of natural areas. Next slide. The second trend is that intensifying weather events are increasing risks across the watershed: flooding, erosion, ice jam hazards, and infrastructure impacts. From real-time flood warning systems to modernizing floodplain maps and updating IDF curves, we give municipalities the tools to protect residents, plan resilient infrastructure, housing, and growth. Next slide. In this area, in 2026, key improvements will include enhanced flood forecasting, including a new ice jam prediction capability, continued implementation of our risk-based planning and permitting framework, expanded green infrastructure training for municipal partners, and completing comprehensive updates to the CTC Source Protection Plan. Next slide. And our performance expectations remain high in this area. 99% uptime of our real-time flood monitoring network, 95% of permits issued on time, 90% customer satisfaction from development applicants, and continued modernization of floodplain mapping. Next slide. And the third trend is that growth across the watershed is accelerating, bringing tremendous opportunity, but also real pressure. More residents are relying on natural areas for recreation and well-being, and at the same time, more people, homes, and infrastructure need protection from natural hazards. Next slide. Our major initiatives in 2026 in this area that respond to population growth include accelerating land acquisition to protect natural areas before they're lost, implementing our invasive species strategy and forest management plan, and completing and opening Jim Tovey Lakeview Conservation Area in Mississauga and advancing our Pits to Parks project in Caledon. Next slide. In 2026, we will be managing 2,867 hectares of land, restoring and caring for 190 hectares of green space, welcoming more than 1.2 million visitors to conservation areas, and engaging over 28,000 people in community programs. Next slides. Now, and most importantly, I'd like to spend a few minutes speaking specifically to the programs and services that CVC will deliver to and for the town of Orangeville in 2026. Next slide. We're focusing on several technical projects that directly strengthen Orangeville's ability to manage flood risk, protect infrastructure, and meet regulatory requirements. We're updating the floodplain mapping for both Mill Creek and Monora Creek, two of the town's most important and most sensitive water courses. This work is being supported through the Federal Flood Hazard Identification and Mapping Program, and Orangeville has been an active funding partner, showing real leadership in risk reduction. We're completing a multi-risk flood analysis of town-owned properties. We're looking beyond traditional river flooding and assessing how urban flooding and potential groundwater issues overlap. This gives the town a clearer picture of which assets are most vulnerable and where proactive investment will have the biggest impact. And we're examining groundwater levels to understand where high groundwater may contribute to basement flooding. The results will inform land use planning, stormwater standards, and even sanitary system design. And finally, we continue to provide the town with water quality data needed to meet its wastewater obligations. Next slide. Building on that work, we're also updating the Orangeville Mono water budget and supporting the Joint Municipal Water Management Agreement. This project helps ensure the entire local groundwater system is modeled accurately, especially important now with the addition of the town's new well. We're also updating the assessment of Orangeville's drinking water issue contributing areas. This ensures the town continues to meet provincial source protection requirements using the most current data available. On the infrastructure side, our team is providing technical support to integrate low-impact development, or LID, things like enhanced infiltration into the Dufferin Street and Arundel Avenue reconstruction project. This kind of design reduces pressures on storm sewers, improves water quality, and supports groundwater recharge. To complement those design features, we're also delivering hands-on LID training for town capital and public works staff. And finally, we continue to monitor the restoration site where a weir was removed on private property. It's a good local example of how natural channel processes recover once barriers are taken out. Next slide. Our climate-ready forests work is helping private landowners manage older plantations so they become more diverse, more resilient, and better able to store carbon. We've submitted 2 funding applications to tackle invasive Phragmites in Orangeville's headwaters. Phragmites spread aggressively and undermine ecosystem health, so securing external dollars help us protect these sensitive areas more cost-effectively. At Island Lake, we're continuing hazard tree management to reduce risk to visitors and infrastructure. It's a proactive approach that ensures the conservation area remains safe, accessible, and enjoyable. And finally, we continue to run stewardship events with Orangeville residents. These events consistently attract strong participation, like the Earth Day tree planting at Mill Creek last spring. Next slide. And between now and 2028, we're planning, constructing, and renewing more than 4.4 kilometers of trail infrastructure in and around Orangeville. This includes a new Credit Valley Trail boardwalk connection, the replacement of the 4th Avenue entrance boardwalk, improvements to Bob's Bridges, and a new pedestrian link within the Upper Credit Trail system. We've already secured nearly $2 million in external funding to support these projects. An excellent example of how CVC leverages outside dollars to reduce the financial pressure on the town. And beyond infrastructure, we continue to support community programming such as day camps and special events at Island Lake, services that bring families outside, support youth engagement, and contribute to Orangeville's quality of life. And at this point, I'll hand things over to Andrew to run you through the budget framework.
Great. Thank you, Terry. Next slide, please. So I'll take us through some of the very high-level numbers of the budget to wrap up our presentation. Next slide, please. So this slide shows our gross budget. For 2026, that budget is an increase of 4.5% over our 2025 budget. And on the revenue side, I'll note an budgeted increase in fees, largely due to projected increases in conservation area visitation of 14.6%, an overall increase in municipal funding of 3.5%, and provincial funding remaining flat, as it has been for many years, at $96,000. I'll also note the funding for source water protection. In 2025, we were fortunate to receive an enhanced funding for the source water protection function that we lead for the Credit, Toronto, and Central Lake Ontario Source Water Protection Authority, and that funding has ended for 2026, and so that's why you'll see the decrease in that line. Next slide, please. This slide shows similar data, and I'll just note to underscore that the majority of Credit Valley Conservation's funding does come from municipal levy, and the majority of our expenses are for personnel costs. We run many programs and services over a very wide region, and personnel do represent the majority of our expenses. Next slide, please. So this slide shows the modified current value assessment for our 2026 budget. So these are numbers that are provided by the province of Ontario to all conservation authorities, and they're based on property value assessments conducted by MPAC. What they do is determine the split of municipal funding across the participating municipalities of every conservation authority, and it's prescribed in a regulation of the Conservation Authorities Act. So you'll note on screen the 7 participating municipalities that make up Credit Valley Conservation. And for the modified current value assessment of 2026, Orangeville's MCVA actually decreased by 0.27%. This is a slightly smaller decrease than last year, which was 0.4%. Next slide, please. This slide shows the total municipal funding for CVC's 2026 budget. I'll note that the town of Orangeville's share of our municipal funding is $347,000 approximately, or an increase of $6,773, or 2.0% over our 2025 budget. This is a significant reduction from the forecast, which you may remember from our 2025 budget, which was upwards of 7%. And there's been some diligent work on behalf of staff to mitigate those costs and manage the increase this year to bring us in for Orangeville at 2.0%. Next slide, please. This slide shows a proportion of that municipal funding called the general levy. And for Orangeville, that's increasing at 1.9%, or an increase of just over $5,000. Next slide, please. And the second proportion of our municipal funding, or the shared special levy, for Orangeville increasing by 2.4%, or about $1,500. Next slide, please. And this slide is required by regulation, and it shows the split of our municipal funding for mandatory or Category 1 programs and services as defined in the Conservation Authorities Act, and Category 2 or non-mandatory programs and services. And so you'll note that the majority of our funding is aligned with mandatory programs and services as defined by the province, as well as our general and administrative expenses are also lumped into that category by regulation. Next slide, please. And our final financial slide shows the forecast over the next 3 years. So I'll note the forecast numbers of 3.6%, 3.0%, and 3.0% are really for discussion purposes. And I'd like, on a normal year, there are many assumptions built into these forecast numbers, including things like inflationary increase or cost of living allowance. But in particular, Terry mentioned the formation of the Ontario Provincial Conservation Agency, the proposed consolidation of conservation authorities, and that introduces a considerable amount of uncertainty for our 2027 budget, which the province has indicated could be the fiscal year within which these consolidations take place. That decision has yet to be made, but it just underscores the fact that this forecast is a work in progress, and there's considerable uncertainty behind these numbers. Next slide, please. And so to close, I'll note 2 elements. The first are a number of additional and often multi-year funding pressures that we face as a conservation authority. Land acquisition first and foremost, matching costs to acquire land when opportunities come up, or to acquire land that we have as part of our land acquisition plans is always a need. And not within budget. As well, there's investment in our parks, recreational and other infrastructure. That's always a need, including several large management plans that we have approved and would like to implement in the years to come, particularly Ion Lake and our Bell Fountain Conservation Area. As well as other major projects such as the Credit Valley Trail, which is a generational project to build a trail from Orangeville down to Lake Ontario. Next slide, please. And secondly, and lastly, I'd just like to note that we do leverage a considerable amount of funding through non-municipal sources, in addition to the fees that we raise to help support those and other important projects. And so Terry mentioned a few in her summary of our accomplishments and our priorities for the coming year. But for example, $3.2 million from the Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program, FCM funding, and a federal active transportation grant for over $4 million for our Jim Toby Lakeview Conservation Area on Lake Ontario. And so with that, we'd like to thank you very much for the opportunity to come and present, and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you both very much for the presentation. I've got some questions lined up from council. We will start with Deputy Mayor Taylor.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. First of all, thank you so much for your presentation, Mr. Kett and Ms. LaRue. I appreciate that very much. I do want to just make a little statement, first of all. So we were here a year ago, and we were here prior to that, so 24 months ago, and I was quite critical of the CVC, candidly. There was just concerns that I had, and you'd mentioned the cost increases that were brought up last year and are mitigated this year. And I just wanted to acknowledge that and thank you for being so professional and coming. And I do think that the public should know that Councillor McIntosh, who is our CVC representative, worked with the CVC, and we had a pre-meeting prior to this meeting to ensure that I'd be calm and reasonable and a good human being while we're sitting here. We can't have more than 3 people, otherwise it'd be a council meeting, which is why the rest of council wasn't there. But I just wanted to acknowledge the great strides that you've made over the year, over the last 24 months through the CVC and trying to be inclusive to Orangeville, and the way that you're showing up is greatly appreciated. So thank you for that. And then my question would be is, I'm very interested in the bridge that you're building over by the Lockyer Bridge, which is just it's a walking bridge that's underneath of it. And I'll just tell you the life of the local politician. Sometimes it's exciting to tell people about things that are going on in town. They don't get to know about them. And I always think about, how is this going to go over? And right away I thought, as soon as I post that we're putting a walking bridge by the Lockyer Bridge, the criticism about, payments and funding and generally how that's going would come at us in a wave of criticism, although it's a beautiful bridge and it's going to be great for the walking trail down there. I'm just curious if you could describe a little bit the genesis of that project, why it came to fruition, and then I think you've described your funding. You're getting it from other agencies, which is great. But if you just a little bit of a diatribe on that bridge and the positive nature of what it's going to do for our community would be great. Thank you.
Yes, happy to. Through you, Mayor Post. Yes, thank you for raising that. That's a project we're quite excited about. So the Credit Valley Trail vision that Andrew mentioned briefly, which is the 100-kilometer trail from the headwaters in Orangeville and Mono to Lake Ontario, that is part of the optimum route. So over the past 5 years, we've been really trying to generate and mobilize interest in the trail by getting some real infrastructure on the ground so that it germinates and it resonates with people. So that bridge in particular, the funding that we mentioned, the ISIP funding, the infrastructure funding, pays for more than 70% of that project. The final bill was just over $760,000. The majority funded by the federal provincial ISIP money, the remainder through Region of Peel, our levy through the Region of Peel. The reason you'll see, if you've seen it, it's like this gorgeous steel structure that may look like it's over-engineered for the location. But the reality is, as you mentioned, the proximity to the bridge, the traffic bridge, we need to protect people. We need to protect people if there's snow plows, like these big snowfalls, from going by, and from salt and rock. So it's actually a public safety issue.
He would like to know when it's opening.
I will have to get back to you on the exact opening date, but yes, it would be this spring at the latest, yeah.
Thank you very much. Councillor Prendergast.
Thank you, Mayor Post, through you. It's nice to see you, Mrs. LaRue, again, and Mr. Katz, nice to see you. I would like to just express, as the chair of Sustainable Orangeville, the value that I see in the Credit Valley Conservation, which might not be readily evident to everyone else. Twice a year, we have our tree planting, which is very public-facing. We're also working on, we had our tree giveaway last year. We're going to be doing a second one this year, and the CVC nursery provides those trees at a very reduced cost to the town. So that's something very important. In addition to that, which is something that no one really sees, is the town of Orangeville is really small. We have one environmental expert on staff, and that's it. So when we have questions that require specialized expertise, we run to the CVC. And that really informs our planning, our climate adaptation, flood risk, invasives, and that is where the real value is. And I just wanted to highlight that. One thing you told me, though, was a certain percentage of how many people access Island Lake without paying for it. And I know this was a bit of a segue, but I wanted to bring this up because it really relates to how much we can get at Island Lake based on how much users are paying for Island Lake. I guess if that makes sense.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for your comments. Through you, Mayor Post. Yes, so Island Lake, we have a tri-party agreement, CVC, the town of Orangeville, and the town of Mono, that allows for free pedestrian-based access through different access points around the lake, the neighborhood access points as we call them. What our visitation demographic info is showing us is that more than 74% of the total visitors to Island Lake are coming through those free access points.
And I just wanted to follow up with that, Mayor Post, because initially I contacted Ms. LaRue talking about programming. My family was a little disappointed to see Syrup in the Park move down to Terracotta. And I understand there are financial restraints and we have to be responsible, but just looking to make up for that, money's not there. And money that you receive from us can't be used for programming. It needs to be used for scientific floodplain expertise. Okay, sorry, thank you. And I guess that's all I was going to say was if we're looking to increase services at Island Lake, I think we need to start going through the main gate.
Thank you. And Councillor Andrews.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you, Terry, and also Andrew. Again, great presentation, and always nice to have the CVC here at Orangeville Council. I have three questions, and first of all, I just wanted to make a comment. Mayor Post and I were fortunate to be at Roma this past week, and of course, Minister McCarthy happened to be on the hot seat during the Bear Pit session, and of course, there was the question about what's happening with OPCA. And so from the perspective of the wording that you had in your presentation, you identified streamlining and standardization of service delivery. What will this mean to Orangeville, in your opinion, if this goes through?
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. I wish I had an answer for that question. We don't know what it actually means overall for the CA network.
Okay.
We just know that it's a goal of the province.
I understand that, and I guess we'll wait until the province makes its decision. Second question is the timeline for the Island Lake South Dam. That was highlighted also in your presentation. Will this possibly be disruptive to the trails in any way, or is it just a separate component that will be, of course, fixed at some point this spring?
Yeah, the exact timelines, I would have to confirm those, but it's my understanding that there won't be any disruption to the recreational use.
Excellent. And my third question, Mayor Post. We've had, as Deputy Mayor Taylor highlighted over the years, we've had the CVC present, and there was an ambitious plan for Island Lake. Where is that in the big scheme of things, if you mind me putting you on the spot?
Yeah, and through you, Mayor. The dreams and the schemes still exist. They are in our hearts and they are embedded in our visions. I think, as Andrew mentioned about the unfunded pressures,
yes,
that is an area where the Island Lake Management Plan had an overall cost, a projected cost of about $40 million to achieve a lot of different infrastructure objectives of the park. What we're doing is we're working with the CBC Foundation, so our partner charitable arm, and the Friends of Island Lake, the local community group, and really trying to explore how we can tap those dollars like we did for Jim Tovey Conservation Area to get the kind of the major mega $1 million federal provincial investment to Island Lake.
Great, thank you. And I just have a quick comment. I wanted to thank the CBC, as Councillor Pendergrass had indicated, about your support. We did have a delegation, and again, there's, I guess, a pending application as well. And I think the CBC has been very helpful to staff in making sure that this is in fact not lost, and your expertise is certainly welcomed. And the last point, Orangeville does not want to get lost in this consolidation, and I think our voice needs to be heard. And I'm just afraid that with the consolidation with, the other, conservation authorities, we're in the north and there's some bigger players, to the south or southwest. I just don't want to have Orangeville forgotten. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I don't see any other questions from members of council. So with that, I thank you for coming today and appreciate your presentation. Up next, we will invite Chief Snyder, who is coming up to talk about Camp Molly 2026. Chief, it's great to have you, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Post. Thank you, Council. Thanks for the opportunity to be here tonight to bring a great story that we're looking to bring to Orangeville for the fall. I think this is something that will be great for Orangeville Fire, as well as the town and the surrounding community and Dufferin. So what we're looking to do is bring something called Camp Molly to the Orangeville Fire Service, likely at the end of September is the tentative dates for it. Next slide. This is a short video. We'll answer all the questions up front. Great. So Camp Molly first started in 2019 in Oakville. It was first run in in Halton Region. And it's been run every year very successfully since. This is a 4-day camp for young women and non-binary youth between the age of 15 and 18. And it's an opportunity to showcase not only the fire service, but other emergency services and public service in general, and show it as a viable career pathway. It's not all the Hollywood version of firefighting. It includes all of the other things that we do in fire prevention and education, fire investigations, and all those pieces. And it's just a fantastic opportunity to bring young women and non-binary youth from our community together in a great atmosphere. Next slide. So a little history on Molly Williams. Molly Williams was the first known firefighter and the first known Black firefighter in the United States. She started her service in 1818 during a blizzard when most male firefighters were out of commission due to the cholera outbreak, and took her place amongst the other male firefighters and worked in Lower Manhattan. So an amazing story, and the camp's named after her service. Next slide. So the mission of Camp Molly, a positive and supportive opportunity for young individuals who identify as female and non-binary youth in our community. Next slide. And a number of goals from this camp, but at the end of the day, this is a camp to get people together, to build their confidence, to challenge them, to show them the hard work and what hard work and teamwork can do together, and just sort of build on this over a 4-day event. Next slide. Lots of pictures. We all like pictures. Next slide. And this, again, about empowerment. If you first talk about this and show the type of equipment, those tools are 40 to 50 pounds each, and show how they can, all people can work them and operate them. And it seems like a challenge, and it seems like it's something you can't do. And we show the techniques and the training and how to work with all the equipment we have and work together. Next slide. Next slide. And again, to prepare to challenge the way you see yourself. The challenge for young female and non-binary youth is to get that self-confidence, to understand that there are opportunities, that maybe the non-traditional roles are an open pathway to them. And this is one of the huge benefits of this camp. Next slide. Next slide. So a study from the Canadian Women's Foundation found that in grade 6, 36% of female students said they felt self-confident. By grade 10, only 14 reported the same. So one of the best ways it's proven to develop confidence in young females is through mentorship, and that's what this camp is built around. We're very lucky in Orangeville to have 8 female staff working with EMS, working with police, working with other fire services in Dufferin, including Caledon, that are offering support. Some of the local private career colleges are interested in working with us. They all understand that mentorship is such a valuable tool for everybody. But this is an opportunity for a group that sometimes suffer from the lack of confidence, and we're going to work very hard to build that confidence up. Next slide. As I mentioned, this is all just about firefighting. We try to look at the whole gamut of stuff that firefighters do in the fire service, from fire prevention and public education, our fire investigations, and we bring in dispatch and communication side, so they all can understand that it's not just the firefighter you see on the fancy red truck, that there's a lot of career opportunities there that they may not have thought about. Next slide. One of the big highlights of our last day is they get the opportunity of the Firefighter Combat Challenge. It's often said it's the toughest 2 minutes in sports, where it's one of the, a relay course of doing a number of different skill sets. And you saw some of that in the video where they're racing against time upstairs, carrying weight, dragging hose, dragging victims. And it's just a really great way to bring back the teamwork and collaborative nature and see all the great skills they learned. And then we really put on a very special graduation for them. We bring in the pipes and drummers where we can. We make sure that we have the proper dignitaries, and you all be extended an invitation. And we really want to support and celebrate the hard work that they put in over the 4 days. Next slide. So as I said, the idea here is that the fire service can be considered a more non-traditional career. So they will no longer be considered a non-traditional career, and that it's a good pathway for people that, a public service job to help the community and moving forward. Next slide. Camp Molly's also last year reached out to Indigenous communities and held 2 Camp Molly's. This one was in Kingston in 2024, but in a couple different places as well. We've already discussed it with them to ensure that we reach out to our Indigenous communities in our area, including our local partnerships with Brave Canoe, and make sure that they're included and involved in this moving forward. So just talking about their principles when they develop these camps for the Indigenous, and they do take a special lens when they're specifically for the Indigenous. Next slide. And another great thing is this is a very well-run group. They manage the registration through their system. They manage the volunteer opportunities. If we have someone interested in volunteering, it goes through them and they vet it. This camp is for up to 35 female non-binary. It's provided absolutely no cost to the individual. All the costs are borne either through what we'll talk about in sponsorships and donations. And to say we go out and reach for the volunteers, whether it be the paramedics, any of the public service that are out there can offer it. And we've had, historically hearing where it's been held and in Caledon last year, you have to turn volunteers away. This has been such a successful event and it's amazing. Next slide. The board of directors provide us with the PPE, so all the camps are set up so that the personal protective equipment can be brought in. So at 14 years old, the hands and feet are smaller. We have all the proper size PPE so that they're wearing the right stuff and can do it safely. They're going to provide us with all the curriculum, all the skill sheets, all the support in doing it. They do the registration, and they have partnerships to help support us. So it's not we're going to deliver the camp with a lot of support from them. Next slide. Bunch of partnerships already in place. Next slide. And really, they're here to have fun. And from everything I've seen, I was involved in this camp when I worked with the OFM. It's incredibly well run. It's incredibly well received. And I'm looking really forward to bringing this opportunity to Orangeville. Great. If there's any questions.
I do have a couple of questions lined up. Just before I get to them, I want to thank you, Chief, for bringing this, before you brought it to council, for bringing it to the Mayor's Youth Advisory Council. They were extremely honored to be kind of the first to hear about it, and I can share with council that they were extremely excited about this opportunity. Councillor Andrews, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm not surprised to hear that from the Mayor's Youth Committee itself. Chief Snyder, again, appreciate this. More of a comment and then a couple of questions. Again, having a connection to post-secondary pre-firefighter training, really the combat component I'm very familiar with. In the 2 minutes, there's other words we could describe it, but it is really, really unique to see the individuals get to that point. I really want to commend you for bringing this forth. This is a great idea for those that are considering a career or public service career. This is just spectacular, and also the connection to the Indigenous and looking at it from an EDI lens. How will the word get out to members in our community? What's the communications plan?
So there is support from Camp Molly in different avenues to do this, but we will be putting this out through our social media. We talked with the Mayor's Youth Council about trying to getting it into the schools before they leave in June. So we'll leverage the town and the area. It's become so popular, they're turning people away. So
I'm not surprised.
we definitely want to prioritize Orangeville and Dufferin area, so we'll do our due diligence and get that word out with the support of our communities.
And I saw a slide that has a number of sponsors, but if someone locally wanted to provide some support, how would they go about doing that?
Yeah, we'll be looking for support. The cost of the camp is somewhere around $15,000, and that's everything from the duffel bag of all the equipment that they take with them to providing meals and lunches, whether it be transportation. There's a couple props we have to build. So yeah, we'll be out soliciting donations. Again, hearing from Caledon and those that have run it, I don't expect any issue getting sponsors lined up for this.
I think even connecting to our ED office, they might be able to bridge the gap there and get you connected with some of those businesses that would no doubt really want to support this in some way. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Andrews. Councillor McIntosh.
Thank you, Worship, and thank you, Chief, for that presentation. I guess my question, you've kind of answered it in a way, but I was wondering about registration. Would we take local people first?
Yeah, so we'll work with Camp Molly through the registration where they can register, and then we'll make sure the priorities for the local. We've heard some stories of people traveling from Thunder Bay to attend the course in Caledon last year when there's openings, but so there's a lot of interest in this type of camp.
Thank you.
Councillor Prendergast.
Thank you, Mayor Post, through you. Thank you, Chief Snyder, for bringing this to Orangeville. You know, I realize this is extra work for you, right? But And I just wanted to recognize that. Taking this on for the young female folks and non-binary folks in our community who might not otherwise have this opportunity. I'm a teacher, a lot of people know that, and we definitely see a drop in self-esteem with young girls around puberty. You know, when it continues to decline, statistics are there, they drop out of sports. You know, they're less likely to engage. This is a perfect avenue to open up different kinds of careers or open their eyes up to different fields of work. So really, thank you so much for bringing this to town.
Thank you, Councillor Prendergast. Councillor Sherwood.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you to Chief Snyder. Thank you very much for bringing this. I think this is exciting and quite phenomenal. A couple of my questions have been answered, of course, about local residents. But could you tell me, how long is the camp? Is it a one-day camp? Is it a week-long, a week? How does that work?
Yeah. Through Mayor Post, it is a 4-day camp, runs from Thursday through to Sunday. So for daytime, they come each day. We would provide lunch, but that's all that's, like, it's not a breakfast overnight or anything like that.
Just to follow up, so if we had any out-of-town people, it wouldn't be your responsibility to find accommodations for them. That would be up to them, correct?
To them, yeah. And it's something we could look at it depending on the numbers and timing, because of the sponsorship avenue, that there might be some options there, but I don't know. Generally, they're required to get here and where they stay.
And lastly, what time of year would you be looking at this?
We're looking at the end of September. So right now, the last week in September is one that's open. They try to stagger them to get the PPE from places to place, but that seemed to be good. July and August is extremely hot and can be very tough. So they try to do it in a little bit cooler weather when we can.
Well, thank you. I really look forward to this.
Wonderful.
Councillor Prendergast.
Sorry, just to follow up. Is it run on weekends?
Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Okay, thank you.
Can you remind me, Chief Snyder, how many people you can take for Camp Molly locally?
Yeah, 35 people in 7 different groups.
That's wonderful. Thank you. I don't see any other questions from council. With that, the recommendation is that report CMS 2026-2, Camp Molly 2026 be received, and that council support Orangeville Fire Service hosting a Camp Molly in 2026, and that staff be authorized to pursue partnerships, sponsorships, and applicable grants to offset program costs. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Prendergast and Deputy Mayor, all in favor? And that is carried. Thank you so much, Chief Snyder. We'll now move on to the consent agenda. The following items have been compiled under the consent agenda to facilitate a single vote for council consideration. Council may remove any item from the consent agenda for individual consideration. Ahead of the meeting, I did receive notice that 13.1.2, the planning activity summary, 13.1.3, the update on the implementation of the EDI strategy, and 13.3.7 have been removed. Was there any other items that any members of council wish to remove? Okay, seeing none, the recommendation is that all consent agenda items for the current council meeting listed under 13.1 staff reports, 13.2 correspondence, and 13.3 committee board minutes be received or approved as presented, with the exception of the items removed for individual consideration, which again are 13.1.2, 13.1.3, and 13.3.7. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Stevens and Councillor Sherwood, all in favor? And that is carried. 13.1.2 is the 2025 planning application activity summary. The recommendation is that report INS 2026-2 2025 planning application summary be received. Can I have a mover and a seconder to get it on the floor? Councillor Andrews and Deputy Mayor, and I will turn it to Councillor Sherwood.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to express how much I appreciated this report. I don't know about my fellow councillors, but you know, we don't realize how much development is actually in the queue until we see it summarized like this, and it's fabulous to see that. So I want to thank staff for that, because I don't recall in all the years that I've been on council that we've ever been supplied this kind of detail. So if this is something we could continually do, that it's fabulous. And it also just shows that how hard our small planning department are working, because obviously you have a lot of things on your plate. So just wanted to thank you very much for that. There wasn't a question. I just wanted to comment on how much I appreciate all this detail.
Thank you for that, Councillor Sherwood. Was there any other questions on that item? All in favor? And that is carried. 13.1.3 is the update on the implementation of the town's equity, diversity, and inclusion strategy. The recommendation is that report CAO 2026-1, update on the implementation of the town's equity, diversity, and inclusion strategy be received. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor McIntosh and Councillor Stevens. And Councillor Andrews, I will turn it to you.
Thank you, Your Worship. This is a comment, no questions, but I wanted to make a comment because, again, it was timely that Chief Snyder talked about Camp Molly and talking about a lens here from an EDI perspective. Great work from our Corporate Services Division, in particular Natalie Lecce, who is also, I guess, leading some of this with your guidance as well, with more to come in 2026. Some significant progress for those of you on council. No doubt you've read this report, but those in the general public, when EDI is kind of being forgotten or put off to the side in other municipalities and in other levels of public service, or the public sector, as well as the private sector, I commend our municipality for staying the course and, in fact, investing in this. I applaud also Orangeville's effort in supporting several of the TRC calls to action. They were highly identified in this report. That's, of course, Truth and Reconciliation Commission report. Still lots to do in 2026 with additional community conversations to take place. And I know that Mayor Post is aware of some of those conversations we're having, but I look forward to more activities and initiatives to come in 2026 and hopefully in 2027 and beyond. But again, an excellent report, and that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Andrews. Was there any other questions or comments on that report? I'll call the vote then. All in favor? And that is carried. Lastly, we have 13.3.7. The recommendation is that the 2025 December 16th Community Improvement Plan Committee meeting minutes be received for information. Can I have a mover and a seconder to get those on the floor? Councillor Andrews and Councillor Prendergast, and I will turn it to Councillor Andrews.
Thank you. Again, Your Worship, this was one agenda item that was highlighted in that report to Council, 6.1, which is the draft CIP, so Community Improvement Plan. And I did speak with Deputy Mayor Taylor before our meeting this evening just to give him a heads up, but again, he chairs that particular committee. Glad to see that there was a report with some recommendations provided at the December 16th meeting regarding forms of CIP incentives, which related to committees such as Economic Development and also Heritage Committee as well. As was highlighted in the Affordable Housing Task Force report, consideration should be possibly considered for the 2027 budget deliberations regarding forms of incentives for ARUs. This would be in addition to looking at possible incentive programs to entice businesses, which I'm also, of course, very much in favor of, to come to Orangeville, along with addressing collaboration between the Economic Development and Heritage Committees. So I pulled this primarily because it remains a discussion point as we approach the remainder of this term of council, but I hope it doesn't get lost. And of course, it's still on the radar when a new council comes in the fall of 2026.
Thank you, Councillor Andrews. Did you want to add anything to it? Perfect. Deputy Mayor Taylor, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Your Worship, and thank you, Councillor Andrews, for your comments. I do think that committee is super important. It is serving a purpose to better our town, but the reality is it's just scratching the surface. And to your point, there's three areas, and I've contacted Councillor Sherwood and yourself because I think that the Heritage and Economic Development and this committee are all tied, and I feel like it's not getting the word out enough. Like, more people need to know that these things are available. And then on top of that, we have met with other community members who are stating that other communities are doing even more than what we're doing. And I think it's super important that we consider this. I'm not going out on a limb and saying we should do it because I don't know that we've gotten that far in terms of our conversations. But the idea is there is money circulating around. They're going to wait till the uncertainty is over. And when the uncertainty is over, the money is going to drop. And we want that money to come to our community. And if there's ways for us to do that in some sort of way, we should all be open to that and consider what we would need to do to help to entice it. Controversial, maybe? I hope not. I think it's actually very prudent and thoughtful that we would be considering that. And I look forward to these discussions as they go forward. And I thank you, Councillor Andrews, for bringing that to the table tonight.
Thank you. Was there any other questions or comments on that item? Okay, all in favor? And that is carried. There were no notices of motion received prior to the meeting. Is there any notices of motion tonight? Nope, seeing none. Any announcements? Councillor Andrews.
All right. I'm just going to take a quick note to thank yourself, Mayor Post, David Smith, our CAO, and other staff who were involved including myself too, as well, as we represented our Team Orangeville at Roma this past week. A special shout out to also our comms department and our corporate services for putting together delegation material. And the reason I bring this up at council is, again, the opportunity for members of our general public to be aware that we are advocating on behalf of this municipality. We've done so successfully during this term of council. And I think what was really important is that in addition to Mayor Post with her title as mayor, she was incredible as our warden as well. And I want to thank you for being the leader that you are. You struck a chord with so many, and again, the ripple effect is something that we're going to see some huge dividends, I think, in the coming months and coming years. So again, thank you for everyone involved, but it really was an absolute honor to represent, as I call it, Team Orangeville at Roma.
Thank you so much, Councillor Andrew. That's very kind. Deputy Mayor Taylor.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. I have no compliments for you at this time. However, I did want to talk about snow removal. And I did want to call out, in my mind right now, we're at a critical juncture. It's been, we have been snowed in, per se, and I know people are frustrated, and I know that they're expecting that their snow be cleared. The reality is, staff, I think, are doing a tremendous job. And I do want to call your team out, Mr. Koslak, for doing the work that you're doing. I don't know if you want to comment on it at all in the public forum. I think it's people are wanting to know, but I do think that our staff is doing an exceptional job under the circumstances. And if we could get a little sunlight and perhaps some temperatures rising, that would help too. But thank you and your team. And if you had any thoughts for everyone, that would be great too.
Mr. Koslak?
Yeah, through your worship. That's one of the hard things. Last year we had a major storm or major winter, and people were saying it was the worst in 30 years. I think this year has been worse. It started Remembrance Day and really hasn't gone away. Other years you'd have a snowfall and then you get a break, whereas this seems like it's the same thing. Snow, snow, snow. One of the things I want people to know, it's the same crew that plows your road that does a lot of the snow removal. We bring contractors in to help it, but when it's snowing continuously, we have to have staff out plowing continuously. And the contractors that we bring in for helping with the snow removal, they have contracts. They're plowing your malls, they're plowing other parking lots. So it's one of the things you can't do both at the same time. You can't plow the roads and do the removal. So we need time where it's not snowing. It looks like the next week or two should be better. We've done a lot of work in the last week on the avenues and the roads in the downtown and the curbside sidewalks doing removals. Staff were out all day today with the contractor. I think they had 5 or 6 trucks plus ours. So they're really trying to get ahead of it. And hopefully if the weather's good for the next 2 weeks like it looks like, we'll be able to put a pretty good dent in some of the snow removal. We won't be able to be everywhere. We have about 250 lane kilometers of roads. So we can't be everywhere at once, and it will take time to do it all, but we are picking away and trying to get it done. So appreciate everybody's patience with it. We're trying to get around and trying to do some of the priority areas. And I think it's been going fairly well, but it has been one of the strongest winters we've had in many years.
Thank you so much, Mr. Koslak. I appreciate that. Councillor Sherwood.
Yes, Your Worship. I just wanted to let the general public know about Theatre Orangeville performance that'll be running from February 5th to February 22nd called Common Ground. Our artistic director, Jennifer Stewart, will be directing this romantic comedy. It's filled with wit and warmth and humor, and it's a comedy about love, and so I encourage you to get out and get your tickets and, you know, put the whole snow pile stuff away and come out and have an enjoyable night at the theatre.
Thank you, Councillor Sherwood. Deputy Mayor Taylor?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just one other thing, and that is tomorrow night is the BIA's AGM, the annual general meeting. It starts at 6:30. All of council is invited, and obviously the public is invited as well. It is in Town Hall in the atrium, and then we go upstairs to the auditorium, and hopefully everyone can make it.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'm not seeing any other announcements, so we will move into bylaws. The recommendation is that the following bylaws for the current council meeting be read 3 times and finally passed. The appointment of deputy clerk, authorized lease agreement for Armstrong Street parking, and of course the confirming bylaw. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Sherwood and Councillor Stevens, all in favor? And that is carried. And can I get a motion to adjourn at 8:15? Councillor McIntosh and Councillor Prendergast. All in favor? And that is carried. Thank you for joining us this evening, everyone.